There's a boy I think about sometimes, standing on the bank of a little pond, 20-some years old, watching a weed bed off to his left, thick, matted hydrilla and lily pads all tangled up, and he will not throw into it. Won't do it. Because the last 3 times he tried, he got hung up, snapped off a lure, and stood there feeling like a fool. So he casts everywhere but there. And the whole time, the fish are sitting right in that mess, fat and happy, watching him fish the empty water. That boy was me. And I'm telling you about him because I made every mistake in this video. Not once, but for years. 20 years near about. I started fishing over 30 years ago, and for the first 20 of them I stumbled through the same handful of mistakes over and over, missing fish, getting stressed out over nothing. My name is Landry. I've been guiding folks on the bayous and lakes down here in Louisiana most of my life, and before that my grandpa guided me. And here's what I want you to understand before we start. None of these mistakes made me a bad fisherman. They just cost me years I could have been catching fish if somebody had sat me down and told me plain. So that's what I'm going to do for you. 7 mistakes. And the fix for each one is simpler than the mistake ever was. Let's get into it. Number 1, thinking the weeds are a wall. Let's go right back to that boy on the bank, staring at the weed bed he won't fish. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. That thick, ugly, tangled-up cover is not a wall keeping you from the fish. It's a house the fish are living in. Bass, pike, muskie, bowfin. Down here we got 'em all up in the salad. Even them big jumbo perch. They tuck into that heavy stuff because it's shade, it's ambush, it's a whole grocery store of little bait fish and bugs. The nastiest looking corner of the pond is very often where the biggest fish in it is sitting. Now, the reason I avoided it wasn't the fish. It was me. I didn't have the right bait tied on, and I didn't know how to fish it. That's the whole thing. Once I got comfortable throwing a weedless frog, a bait built to sit right up on top of the pads and slide over them without snagging, or pitching a jig down into the thickest part, that wall turned into the best real estate on the water. My grandpa used to say the fish tell you where they are, and the weeds are them near about shouting it. So here's your simple hack. Don't change the spot, change the bait. Tie on something weedless and go throw it into the exact place that used to scare you. That heavy cover isn't the hard day. Once you've got the right bait in your hand, it's the easy day, because you already know where the fish are. And let me give you one more thing on this, because it's the part nobody tells a beginner. When you're fishing a weedless frog up on top of the pads and a bass blows up on it, and it is a sight, water flying everywhere, your heart in your throat, you gotta wait. That's the whole trick. Everything in you wants to snatch that rod back the second you see the strike. Don't. Half the time on that first grab, the fish has got the frog sideways, or he's missed it, and he's coming back. You wait a beat. I count 1 gator, 2 gator under my breath, an old habit. You let him get it and turn, and then you lean into him and reel down hard. Set too soon, and you'll pull it right out of his mouth and stand there wondering what happened. Read the water. Wait for the weight, then go. That's a thing you can only learn by doing it, and missing a few, and that's all right. That's how it goes. Number 2, using a telephone pole to catch a bluegill, second mistake. Way too much rod. When I was coming up, I thought heavier was tougher, and tougher was better. I'd go after little panfish with a rod stout enough to winch a catfish out of a stump, and it's just no good. A heavy rig is less fun in your hands, sure, but here's the real cost. A big, heavy setup kills your casting distance with small lures. A light little lure needs a rod with some give to load up and sling it out there. Put that same lure on a broomstick, and it just flops off the end. You're fishing half the water you could be. Now, I'll be honest with you, 'cause honest is better than impressive. There's a time for heavy gear. If you're fishing that thick brush and vegetation we just talked about, you need the backbone to haul a fish up out of it, even if it's only a 3 or 4 pound base. That's not the rod being wrong, that's the job calling for it. But for most everything else, match the rod to the fish. And here's the hack. If you can only buy one rod, get a medium light or a medium power, and you can catch just about anything that swims on it. Panfish, bass, walleye, a little of everything. One good middle-of-the-road rod beats a rack of specialized ones you don't know how to use yet. Start there, and while we're on it, the rod's only half of it. Match your line to the same job. You don't need to know every number, but here's the plane of it. Light line, say 6 or 8 pound test, casts them little lures a country mile and disappears better in clear water where the fish are spooky. Heavier line, 12, 15, 20 pound, is for when you're dragging fish up out of that heavy cover and you can't have them breaking you off in the stumps. New folks put big, heavy line on for panfish 'cause it feels safer, and then they can't figure why their little lure won't cast worth a darn. Well, there it is. Thick line on a light lure is like tying a rope to a feather. Balance the whole outfit. Rod, line, and lure all suited to the same size fish, and everything gets easier at once. That's not a thing you buy. That's just paying attention. Number 3, pointing your rod right at the lure. This one's small, and it costs people the fish of a lifetime. It's how you hold the rod while you're reeling in. A lot of folks point the rod tip straight down the line, right at the lure, and just crank. Feels natural. But think about what that rod is for. Your rod is 2 things. It's a shock absorber, and it's a bite indicator. When it's pointed dead straight at the bait, it can't do either job. A fish comes up and smacks it hard, and there's no bend in the rod to soak up that hit, so all that shock slams straight into your line. And that's how you hear that awful little pop and watch a good fish swim off with your lure. So here's the fix, and it costs you nothing. Keep your rod out at an angle to your bait, off to the side, tip up a bit, so the rod is always bent just a little while you're reeling. That slight bend gives you 3 things at once. You feel the bite better, the rod soaks up a hard strike instead of your line, and you're in a far better position to set the hook. Only time your rod goes slack straight is on a pause when you want the bait to sit. Otherwise, a little bend, always. My grandpère never once let me reel in with a straight rod. He'd tap the tip up with one finger and not say a word. Number 4, expecting a Texas bass to show up in a Louisiana pond, 4th mistake. And this one's about believing the wrong story. I'd see a video, a pro down in Texas hauling a 12-pound largemouth into the boat on some particular lure, and something in my brain went, well, I'll just get that lure, and a 12-pounder's gonna magically show up in my little pond. And it never did, because I was fishing water that had different fish, eating different food, living in different cover than that Texas lake ever had. Now understand me, this isn't the lure's fault, and it isn't a lie the pro told. That fish was real, but the forage is different water to water. The vegetation's different. The whole world that fish lives in is different. You can't buy a Texas result off a shelf and expect it to travel to your home water. And here's the hack, and it's near about free. The answer isn't in the tackle catalog. It's in your own backyard. Go talk to a few local anglers, or better yet, walk into the little bait store nearest your water and ask the fella behind the counter what's been catching fish lately. He'll tell you. There are baits that flat out work on your local water that nobody's making a slick video about, and once you learn to use those well, you'll outfish the man chasing the Texas dream every single time. That's the villain in this whole sport, if there is one, and it's not a person. Nobody's twirling a mustache. It's just that there's real money in selling you the belief that the next lure is the answer. And there's no money in telling a beginner the truth, which is that the answer was mostly in your hands and your home water the whole time. Number 5, tying a knot you can't trust. 5th. And this one I learned the hard way from my daddy before Grandpa ever got hold of me. When I was a kid, I used my daddy's lures, and I'd tie 'em on by crossing the line a couple times, poking the tag end back through somewhere, and calling it good. It was a terrible knot. It was barely a knot at all, and I kept coming home without his lures, which, let me tell you, a man notices when it's his tackle box getting lighter. So he sat me down and made me learn to tie a real knot, made me tie it over and over till I could do it without looking. And here's what that fixed that I didn't expect. Yeah, I stopped losing his lures, but I also stopped losing fish, because a bad knot doesn't just fail on the cast. It fails at the worst possible second, when the biggest fish of your life is on and pulling, and that sloppy knot lets go right at the boat. Breaks your heart. So the hack is simple, and it's one of the highest value things in this whole video. Learn 1 or 2 good knots, cold, not 10. 1 or 2, I'm partial to the trilene knot and a modified uni knot that you can tie quick and confident every single time. Practice them on your couch watching TV till your fingers know them in the dark. That little bit of practice is the cheapest insurance in fishing. A good knot is the difference between a story about the one you caught and a story about the one that got away. And 2 little things Grandpa drilled into me that'll make any knot hold better, no matter which one you tie. First, wet it. Spit on it, dip it in the water, whatever, but wet that knot before you pull it tight. Dry line cinching down on itself builds up heat, and that heat weakens the line right where it matters most. A wet knot slides down snug and keeps its strength. Second, pull it tight, slow and steady, and then give it a good hard test pull before you ever make a cast. Better that knot fails right there in your hands where it costs you nothing than out on the water on the fish of the year. You'd be surprised how many heartbreaks that one test pull has saved me over 30 years. Number 6, letting a skunk get in your head. Number 6 is the one that's got nothing to do with your gear and everything to do with your heart. Getting skunked. That's the word for a day you don't catch a single fish. And it stinks. No way around it. You drive home empty and you start telling yourself maybe you're just no good at this. I did that for years. Let a bad day sit on me like a wet coat. Here's the truth. I wish somebody had handed me sooner. It happens to everybody, not just you. Go look at the standings from any big tournament sometime. Grown men with $100,000 boats and sponsors and decades on the water, and some of them zeroed that day too. The skunk doesn't care who you are, and a skunked day isn't even a wasted day once you learn to see it right. You got practice. You worked on your casting accuracy. You learned something about that water, where the fish weren't, which is worth knowing next time. Every empty day is you paying tuition on a fish you're going to catch later. So the hack here is just a way of seeing it. You didn't fail, you gathered information. Grandpa used to say, the water doesn't owe you a fish every trip. It just owes you a lesson, and it always pays that one. Go home, keep the lesson, come back. Number 7, throwing the same bait every single time, last one. Number 7, fishing the same bait all day, every trip. When I started, I fell in love with the inline spinner. And I get it. A spinner's a wonderful bait, catches a ton of different species. But I threw it everywhere, including places it had no business being. Spinners are famous for fouling up on plants and snags, so instead of looking at a spot and asking, what's the right bait for here, I just chunk my spinner into the salad and get hung up, over and over. And the real cost wasn't the lures I lost. It was all the other baits I never learned, because I was married to the one. Now here's the flip side, and it's a good story. This spring, I was out after brown trout, and I spent near about the whole day trolling crankbaits and throwing swim baits, doing everything but the spinner. Wasn't finding 'em. Finally, I tied on my trusty old inline spinner and caught a monster on the very first cast. You hear that, and you might think, see, the spinner's the answer, but that's backwards. The lesson is that I had the spinner to switch to because I'd learned a whole handful of baits over the years. If all you ever throw is one thing, you got nothing to change to when the fish tell you they want something different, and believe me, they'll tell you. So the hack, and it's a fun one. Pick up a small handful of lures that cover a variety of situations. Something for the top, something for the middle, something for the bottom, something weedless for that heavy cover we started with. Learn each one well before you add the next. Don't go buy 50 lures. Learn 5. You'll start catching fish you didn't even know were swimming in water you'd fished 100 times, bringing it home. So there they are. 7 mistakes I made for 20 years and the simple fix for everyone. And you'll notice not one of those fixes was buy a better lure. Fish the cover, don't fear it. Right size your rod, keep a bend in it. Trust your home water over a video. Tie a knot you can count on. Don't let a skunk own you. And keep changing it up till you learn what the fish are asking for. None of that costs much. Most of it costs nothing but a little practice and a change in how you see things. That's the part the tackle companies will never put on a shiny package, that the biggest jumps in your fishing are free. Now do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 7 you're guilty of. Be honest. I won't tell nobody. I read every single one. And I promise you're not alone on whichever one you pick. Next time out, I want to walk you through those weedless baits proper, the frog, the jig, how to fish that heavy cover without fear, and so keep an eye out for that one. The fish will tell you where they are. You just have to learn how to listen. Go find yours.